Without further ado, we're going to welcome in a very special guest to Running Point, and it is one that we are so excited to welcome in, Skylar Scarnecchia. Like I said before, this is going to be a little bit different than our normal interviews, where it's just a back and forth Q&A. Skylar, I think your story deserves to be told unabridged, unedited, and I wanted to give you as much time as you wanted or wanted to take to kind of tell it. And we're going to let you do that, and then I'm sure we'll have questions about it after you're done.
But thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah, no problem too.
When I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with stage 4 synovial sarcoma cancer in the bottom of my right foot. And when I found this out, I was playing sports when I was going to my 5th grade year, playing basketball and soccer. And I started feeling this pain on the uneven ground on the grass, and it was pressing in the bottom of my foot, and it hurt excruciatingly. And I told my parents, and we went to a foot and ankle doctor, and they were like, "Oh, this is just plantar fasciitis." And I went through physical therapy and went through all of that, and it wasn't getting better. And with my mom's instinct, she was like, "There is something wrong with my daughter. We need to go further into testing." So I got an X-ray, and it showed that I had a tumor in the bottom of my foot. And then they were like, "Well, what do you wanna do now? Do you wanna go up and get more scans or get a biopsy?" So we were like, "Send us to the Cleveland Clinic," and I went to go get a biopsy. That was a day that changed my life forever because they were like, "It's gonna be benign. It's not gonna be anything severe," and turns out it was stage 4 cancer. That's when a whole whirlwind of things just started happening in my life. I started multiple rounds of chemo, and unfortunately, after those rounds, it wasn't shrinking or doing anything, so we had to go with the alternative, which was amputation. And hearing this at 10 years old and being an athletic kid, it just flips your world upside down. You have so many questions and everything like that, but my first question was, it wasn't really a question, but, "Hey, that's one less foot I have to clip toenails on." That was my reaction, and, you know, I think the doctors were very surprised by that reaction because you wouldn't expect that from a child, but a few weeks later, I went through the amputation, and that's when it finally hit me, like, you know, my everyday life is gonna be changed just from waking up in the morning to putting on a leg to showering and playing sports. So, when I got my prosthetic, I realized I was like, "I can have a normal life again. I can do this," but it all took a positive attitude. If I didn't have the positive attitude, I wouldn't be playing sports like I am today. I would probably still be laying in that bed, sulking over what just happened to me. But I'm a survivor. I officially am 5 years cancer free, and now I am playing wheelchair basketball and golf. And I have ran track in the past and played stand up basketball, but those endeavors have came to an end, and now golf and wheelchair basketball are my life, and that's where I am right now. So, you know, when crappy things happen to you, all you can do is just think on the bright side because there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm living proof that you can get through anything if you just put your mind to it, and that's exactly what I had to do.
I want to take you back to the start. You get that diagnosis, and it had to be a gut punch to you and your family and everyone that was close to you. What were some of the things that people around you were trying to kind of tell you to keep that positive attitude?
I think my whole community was just so supportive of me during this time and hearing all the positive messages. And I heard other people's stories, and I was like, well, I'm not alone in this. And cancer, when you hear you have that, you can't process it. When me and my family first heard that news, we all just, it went silent in our living room, and we all just hugged each other and just cried because you hear that word and you're like, "No way this is happening to me right now and my family." And not only am I going through it, but my whole family is too. So we were fighting as a family, and I couldn't have done it without them. It takes a village, and that's exactly what my family is.
And talking about that too, you mentioned that you kind of went with that positive mindset right out the gate too when you realized your options. What enabled you to have such a positive mindset so early on in a process that would be devastating news to so many? And what do you attribute having that kind of positive mindset to?
Sports definitely encouraged me to get that positive mindset because I did not wanna stop what I love doing. I played basketball since I was in 2nd grade, and hearing this, I was like, "Well, is this gonna change what I'm gonna be doing?" But I was like, I see the technology nowadays with prosthetics and stuff, and I was like, "Wait, I could get back to my everyday life and playing sports. I could be just as good as everyone else." And, you know, I didn't let it slow me down.
You said that you got, told other stories and you read other stories. Was there one story in particular, someone that you read or someone that you heard that really kind of stuck out to you, like I can relate to what they went through that I'm going through?
So I met a girl when I was in the hospital named Maddie, and she became one of my best friends in the hospital because she was the only person I could kind of relate to. She had cancer, and her story, my surgeon like got us talking and everything. And right after my amputation, she came in, and I was having a hard time with changing the dressing off my stitches, and she gave me advice on how to handle it and stuff. And Maddie was just such an inspiration to me, and she encouraged me, and I needed to fight through this for her. And unfortunately, she did not win her battle with cancer, but I still think of her to this day, and I do everything for her, and I had to fight for both of us.
And I mean, looking at that and just looking at the people that you met along the way too, who were some other people that you along the way that you served as inspiration for, I guess, or who are some people that I guess have questions for you? I'm sure you've had many other people come up to you with questions too. What are some bits of advice I guess you would give to people who are going through this now, or maybe just finding out about this now?
Well, my whole goal in life is to be an advocate for childhood cancer and amputees and people with disabilities. And recently, I've been going to elementary schools and talking to the kids about wheelchair basketball and that, hard things happen in life, but all you could do is just push through it. And adversity is like a really big thing in our world now. And, you know, we got to normalize disabilities, and so that's what I've just been teaching people, and it's okay to ask questions. And I'm so happy and so open to tell people about my story and disabilities and like all the struggles that we have in life because people need to be open to that.
To tell your story the way you do and to be able to go and talk to, elementary schools and speak about it, you have to kind of be vulnerable and you have to be able to be open about what you've been through. Was it a journey to get to that point when you were able to be open about your story? And if so, how did you kind of get through that journey and make yourself open and vulnerable enough to be able to tell it?
For sure, you have to be very vulnerable while talking about it. And one day, it was like 2 years ago, and a kid asked me about it for like the first time. And I explained it to them because some kids don't understand what cancer is. I just said my leg got sick and I went through medicine, like the doctors gave me medicine, it just didn't work, so the doctors had to take my leg. And it's about just making your story of what people can understand. And with older people and like older kids, I do then go into more detail about it, and I'm open to that. Like, I don't think there was ever a moment where I didn't wanna share my story because I knew that God didn't make me go through this for no reason. He did this for a purpose and a plan for me to share to other people to help them with their struggles.
What was the most difficult part of your journey, and how did you overcome that part?
You know, during this whole process, there are so many different things you have to struggle with, and I know this kinda sounds crazy, but mine was medicine, and I hated taking the medicine. It had so many different side effects and different tastes, and it just there's still things to this day where I can't, like, eat grape flavored stuff or orange flavored stuff because it just takes me back to those days.
Your story got brought to our doorstep because of the fact that you took time. You spent time with Champions girls basketball team, and you played with them, and you played with that program. I know that endeavor has ended now, but I want you to talk a little bit about that experience and the coaching staff there, and how much you were able to kind of be a part of that team and what that did for you in your journey.
Yeah, so all the girls on my team were so supportive of everything that I've went through, and they were very understanding when I had to take a break to go dry off my leg because with a heavy leg on, it gets sweaty, and the coaches were patient with me in that aspect and everything. And you know, God had a different plan for me, and it wasn't stand-up basketball no longer. So, I appreciated everything I went through on that team and all of those journeys and making it to districts this year with the team, but, unfortunately had to come to an end.
Did it mean something to you to be able to get out there still participate in a stand-up basketball high school varsity level? Did it mean something to you to be able to prove to yourself that you still can do this and you can get out there and still box out girls and still play at this level?
Yes, so whenever I got out on that court, I just wanted to prove myself, and I wanted to show people, like, this isn't holding me back in any way. Like, there's some of those girls that say, "Oh, she has one leg, so I'm gonna go easy on her," or there's those girls that be like, "Oh, she has one leg, I'm gonna go full out on her," and that's what I was always looking for. So I would always pressure the girls just to show them, like, "Don't go easy on me. I don't want that."
Now you're in the wheelchair basketball. How did that kind of come about? What got you started in it, and what do you love so much about being in that environment?
So in the middle of my basketball season, a Paralympian, Darlene Hunter, reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I see you play stand-up basketball, but I think wheelchair basketball would be an amazing opportunity for you. And there's a wheelchair basketball team for the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is affiliated with the actual Cavs and everything." And so at first, I did not want to do it. I play stand-up basketball. I run. I could stand. I could jump. Like, why would I limit myself in a chair? And then I talked to my mom about it, and she was like, "Your pride is getting in the way of an amazing opportunity God is laying at your feet." And the next Sunday, I went up to the Cavs practice, and I fell in love with the sport all over again. And, you know, people still ask me those questions, "Why are you sitting down when you can do all of the normal things?" And I'm like, because God gave me this opportunity, I wouldn't lose it for the world. And the community is just so amazing with the wheelchair teams. And I got to go to nationals in Wichita, Kansas with the Cleveland Cavs, and it was amazing. That's when I knew, like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I found out while I was there, like, I could go to college for it, and I never knew that. I didn't know wheelchair basketball existed till Darlene reached out to me. And now I'm playing with uh, the Pittsburgh Steelwheelers up in Pittsburgh for the juniors team, and then the Dallas Lady Mavericks for their women's team. So, I'm already getting out there, and I want a future in this sport.
What was some of the biggest adjustments for you personally switching over from stand-up basketball to wheelchair basketball?
When you're playing a stand-up basketball and then you sit in the chair, you're so used to standing up and using your legs while jumping to get the ball into the hoop. Where wheelchair, you're sitting down and you don't have any leg movement. So of course you have to build your upper body strength up, and that's exactly what I had to do. But I already had my form there, and I already had my dribbling skills. So it's all about putting it all together into the chair. And there's different. Honestly, all the rules are almost the same. But, like, dribbling's different. You only get 2 pushes while holding the chair holding the ball. So you get 2 touches to the chair while holding the ball, and then you have to dribble, like, so that's a travel if you get more than 2 touches on the chair, So it's a big adjustment, but I think I got a hang of it pretty quickly.
When you talk to wheelchair athletes that are like you that had to go from, you had to get into a wheelchair, they talk about getting acclimated to the chair and getting used to being in the chair. How long did it take for you to kind of get acclimated to being in a wheelchair and be able to maneuver it and be comfortable with everything that you have to do in a wheelchair?
So I think I'm still trying to get the hang of everything, but I've got it down pat pretty quickly. Um, Being able to dribble while pushing the chair is the hardest thing, in my opinion. And it takes so much coordination, which that's something I had to learn. But other than that, you know, I like the challenge.
In your experience too, we talked about your champion experience. I want to kind of talk a little bit about academics. Was there any teachers that the champion program that you feel worth shouting out to along your journey that had an impact on you or influenced you in some way?
My vice principal, Mr. Barson, has been amazing through the whole thing. He has came to my tournaments for wheelchair basketball, and he's just supported me with any academic and athletic thing throughout the last 2 years of my high school experience. So I really appreciate him.
You talked about college and your future endeavors in wheelchair basketball, but what things you want to study and careers you might want to get into and things you want to do in your future?
I'm really thinking about going into communications or journalism. I love talking to people and just sharing my story. Also, being a motivational speaker would be amazing one day.
And looking at that too, what are some classes that you're looking forward to taking at college that you might think are out of the box, but you think are going to be a new experience that you're excited for?
Honestly, I don't know. If I'm being honest, I'm still a sophomore, about to be a junior year, so that's stuff I do have to start looking into. But I only know the realm where I want to go into.
Now, with every athlete we bring on, we do rapid fire questions, and I don't want you to miss out on that. So we're gonna get to know you a little bit off the floor, and first thing I want to ask you is, if we gave you a time machine, would you want to go forward in time to see your future, or would you want to go way back in time to sometime in the past?
Uh, go into the future.
How far in the future would you want to go?
To my college experience.
If you could meet and have dinner with anybody, a living or dead, who would you want to have dinner with?
That's a hard question. Okay. I love Adele, so probably Adele.
What is your guilty pleasure dessert?
um, like chocolate brownies. I just love
Mm.
brownies.
Now, like, because brownie people are pretty they're pretty selective on what kind of, like, do you like the gooey brownies? Do you like the cake brownies, frosting, nuts? Like, I want to get specific on your brownie.
Okay, I like when the chocolate chips are in the brownies. It's
Mm.
just the extra chocolate, and I prefer mine kind of gooier. So,
With an athlete, the post game meal is always important. What do you like to eat after a big game?
oh, pizza. I mean, gotta get those carbs back.
What's your favorite pizza place?
I like Basilios in Cortland.
What toppings?
I like the old world style pizza with just like the sprinkle cheese on.
You've had a lot of teammates that you've been able to play with, whether it be in the wheelchair or whether it be in champion or all the sports you've been able to play in your journey. What teammates in any sport could get you to laugh no matter what the situation was?
I played AAU basketball a few years ago, and my teammate Mia Parker from Liberty, she is the one person I can always just laugh with about everything.
What about a teammate that you would trust the most to be a getaway driver?
Oh, Bella Meyer from Champion.
What teammate has the most swag?
Ooh. This on the Cleveland Cavs team that I play with, his name's Eric Westone. Him. He has the most swag.
Have you ever come across a teammate that thinks they have a lot of swag and style, but they really don't?
That's probably me.
What is your favorite thing to do outside of sports as a hobby?
I like golfing and just hanging out with friends and family.
When you're hanging out, what's the go-to hangout spot for your friends and family?
My house. or yeah, just my house.
What was one childhood fear that you had?
I think my house catching on fire.
Uh, uh, I, I guess you'd still have that. I usually follow that up with, "Do you still have that?" That's got to be a fear that stays with
It is
you.
fear, yes.
I'm sure you have a lot of things you've been able to collect over the years. If that were to happen, knock on wood, it doesn't. What is one thing from your house that you would have to save that isn't a living thing, like an inanimate object?
My leg.
I've heard you named it though. Can we go through the naming of the leg and how that came about?
Yeah, so when I was in the hospital right after my amputation, the nurses would be leaving the room, and Bye Felicia was a big thing during like 2016. So I would wave my leg and I'd be like, "Bye, Felicia." So then my leg just was named Felicia, and the nurses then would repeat it back to me. So that's where Felicia's brand came from.
What is your favorite superhero?
Ooh, gotta say Captain America.
All right, who is your real life hero?
My real life hero, my parents.
Um, when you look at your whole journey, what is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew at the start of it?
That everything would be okay. And I have so many opportunities I would have never thought I was going to have.
What was the last series that you streamed on a streaming service?
Ooh, Stranger Things, the new season.
Have you seen the new season yet?
I haven't watched it all yet, but I'm almost done with it, and I'm like, oh, it's so good.
Graded so far on like how it compares to the other seasons.
Okay, gonna have to say, I always like the earlier seasons because they're so original, but this one is just so thrilling, so I'm gonna have to give it like a 7.5.
All right, what is your favorite vacation spot?
Florida,
What is one spot that you haven't vacationed that you wish you could?
Greece,
And if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you want to live?
Colorado, or Montana.
All right. Skylar, before we let you go, I want to give you the chance to shout out your support system, the people that are always there for you, and the people that you wouldn't be where you are right now without.
Shout out to my family for always being my rock through all of this, and shout out just to everyone who's been a part of my journey and has been supporting me. There's not one specific person I could shout out, but shout out for Darlene, of course, for getting me into wheelchair basketball, and my amazing coach Tim Fox for Cleveland Cavaliers, and John Sikora at Pittsburgh. And so yeah, thank you to all of those people.
Skylar, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about your story and letting us tell it and shine a light on it. We love talking to you. Open door policy. You're welcome on our show anytime if you just want to hang out, and we'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Well, thank you so much for having me.